Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. November 17th of 2016. It was a day that Echo Welte had hoped wouldn't come when she was having to bury her son. On that day, she and her family members attend the funeral and bury her son, who had just a week before committed suicide. Shortly after that funeral, she and her family go and they have dinner. You'll hear testimony that they all had dinner. Echo was there, Danny was there, the kids were there. That afterwards, Danny had left and went somewhere else. He went to his girlfriend's house, Amy Elschlager, who you'll hear from as well today. You'll hear that while he was there, he went there to gather some things, to gather some figurines that Amy had for his children, to gather some food, and to visit with her. That during that discussion and that visit, Amy made it clear that she wanted Danny to grieve for his son, the loss of his son, and to figure out what he wanted to do with his life. Did he want to pursue trying to keep his marriage together or pursue her? But nonetheless, she told him, at this time, I want some physical space. So she took the control of that relationship away from Danny and took it into her own hands and told him, I want some space. So he leaves. He contacts Bethany Welte, now Bethany Wellman. She's since been married. He contacts Bethany Welte and wants to find out where everybody's at. Well, the rest of the family had left and gone to Days Inn. They were staying at the hotel because the home that they were living in is where their son had taken his life. And so Bethany tells the defendant, tells him that the kids are downstairs swimming and that mom is outside having a cigarette. So then the defendant decides he's going to go confront Echo, his estranged wife. He's going to go now try and fix the marriage. And he's going to get upset because Echo is not in the mood to fix the marriage. They had just buried their son. He had just been told by his girlfriend that she wants space. And now he's being told by his estranged wife that she's done as well. She's taken control of her life and relationship. So as he gets upset, and you'll hear him say that he's upset because Echo reminds him that he left the family. And so then, while this argument is going on, James Dykes, who's in Kirksville on a work assignment, he is working on the expansion at Kraft. He hears a commotion, and he hears Echo Welte screaming. Hears her screaming that he's trying to kill me. So you'll see evidence where he runs across the parking lot to try and help her. You'll see him actually grabbing her and pushing her away, getting her away. And you'll hear him talk about how he tried to get the defendant to stop, to just back off. What had happened and what had caused the Echo to scream that he's trying to kill me is that the defendant had taken a gun that he had brought with him in a duffel bag in his car, had taken that gun out of his car, and had tried to fire it, pointing it at Echo Welte, and it jams. Not once, not twice, but he ends up having to clear 5 bullets out of that gun. You'll hear his own words that he cleared those bullets because it wouldn't fire. In the meantime, Mr. Dykes is grabbing Echo and trying to run her off, get her off. While she's struggling to go back and get her keys, He's trying to get her, go, go. You'll see on the video where the defendant then sprints by Mr. Dykes and runs up behind Echo. And in one shot, after he has cleared all those other bullets, in one shot to the back of the head, he shoots and kills Echo Welte. You'll hear how Mr. Dykes wanted to go help Echo, and you'll see how he ran up to her body. But then when the defendant turns around, he ducks. Mr. Dykes ducks and gets behind the truck. You're going to hear it. He feels bad that he couldn't do more and that he was worried about his life and not helping Echo at that point. Mr. Dykes will even testify it appeared that when he stepped in front of him and tried to get him back off, that it appeared the defendant was going to back off. He said, okay. And then shortly thereafter, he runs down Echo and shoots her in the back of the head. Shortly after this, the defendant then retreats to his vehicle. He gets in his car and he decides he's going to call Bethany. And he tells Bethany, I'm sorry. Bethany says, for what? And that's it. That's all he says. He hangs up. He makes several calls from the time that he is seen shooting Echo Welte until the time he turns himself in at the police department. One of the calls he also makes is to Amy Elschlager, his girlfriend, that had just before told him that she wanted some physical space. And he tells Amy goodbye. He tells her, he kind of dances around things, how he made it worse, but he never gets to it until Amy pushes him. And ultimately, he tells Amy that he killed his wife. Amy tries to get him to turn himself in and tries to remind him of his children that he's left now and that he needs to take responsibility and come in. Ultimately, he makes another call to Bethany that is overheard while Detective Feeney is standing next to Bethany, where the defendant tells her he's sorry again, that he loves Bethany, that he ruined it. First it was her brother, now it was her mom, that it was his fault. And he wants Bethany to tell her siblings that he loves them. Ultimately, the defendant gets on the phone with Detective Lowry. And during multiple conversations with Detective Lowry, Danny decides he's going to come into the police department and turn himself in. And Detective Lowry, while he's on the phone with him, tells him kind of the plan, the surrender plan, so as to protect not only the officers, but actually the defendant, so that the officers are aware of what movements the defendant is going to make, so that he isn't mistaken as making furtive movements or dangerous movements towards the officers. Because during those conversations, Detective Lowry was able to confirm that the defendant did still, in fact, have the gun that he used to shoot Echo Welte. And so, ultimately, Detective Lowry tells the defendant to place the gun under the seat, the driver's seat, and exit, and there's several directions that he's given, and the defendant follows them. A search warrant is received to search the defendant's vehicle, and that firearm is found exactly where he was told to put it. So he did. He cooperated. Shortly after he's taken into custody, Detective Lowry sits down with the defendant, reads him his Miranda rights, and interviews the defendant. And that interview is recorded, and we anticipate that you will hear that today. And during that interview, the defendant acknowledged that he understood his rights. He acknowledged that he was going to waive his rights and speak to the officer, to Detective Lowry. During that time, during that interview, the defendant expressed some frustration with Echo. One was that when their son, when he committed suicide and had killed himself just during that week prior, when he was taken to the hospital, Danny was upset because Echo, who is the estranged wife, who was separated, didn't call Danny. And a week later, he was still upset about that. And he told Detective Lowry he was upset about that. And he confronted and he brought that up with Echo there in the parking lot. It was one of the things that he discussed with her, that he was still upset about it. He wanted to be in control of all the information. He wanted to make sure that Echo did what he wanted him to do. And Echo was maintaining control over her life. And so then, ultimately, based on all of his frustrations, and his version of what happened matches what Mr. Dykes says happened. That he ran her down, that Mr. Dykes had gotten in the middle, that he tried to stop him, that the gun jammed. He'll tell you he had to clear the bullets. He'll tell you through the interview. You'll hear his words. He'll tell you that he had to slide the slide on the firearm multiple times to clear those bullets out, and then ultimately runs down and shoots her in the back of the head, killing her. Back at the hotel, officers were continuing to try. They had tried to resuscitate Echo to no avail. While officers were there trying to help take care of Echo, and then first responders of medical care came, Officer Roberts finds a spent casing real close to where the body of Echo was found. And that ultimately, as he did other searches and searched where Echo's vehicle was, he'll tell you there were signs of a struggle because there was her cell phone on the ground, her hotel room key was on the ground, car keys were on the ground, and that there were 5 unspent shells matching the same casing that was found by the body, matching the same shells that were found in the magazine right there by Echo's car, where the struggle began. You'll be able to see that the medical examiner did confirm that the cause of death was, in fact, a gunshot wound to the head. That gunshot wound did take place at Days Inn here in Kirksville, inside of Dare County. Ladies and gentlemen, at the conclusion of hearing all of this evidence, we're going to come back up here and we're going to argue. We call it argument, closing statements, whatever we want to call it. And we're going to argue at the conclusion of all of that and present these facts and this evidence that you're going to hear today in an argument as such that we can present to you and ultimately convince you to find the defendant guilty not only of murder, but as also of armed criminal action. Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson.